And we continue at 2:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, a woman in Sherman Oaks is living what she describes as a naked neighbor nightmare.
Uh-oh.
More on that later.
You know what they say? Don't ask any questions if you're afraid to hear the answer. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a radio talk show host based out of New York City, had the number one morning show in New York City on the AM band for a very long time, along with Kubi. He is also the founder and chief executive officer of the Guardian Angels and was the Republican nominee for mayor of New York City on two different occasions, including last year in 2025. You can follow him on X at Curtis Sliwa. You can find him online at sliwa4nyc.com. Curtis Sliwa, welcome.
Oh, my pleasure, John. In fact, I remember many years ago, the great talk show host Al Rantel. I did a few substitutions for him when he was in recovery. And I got to meet yourself and Doug McIntyre, quite a few other great personalities there at KABC. So it's almost like our hands across America from New York to L.A.
Well, when you did your syndicated show, I think we took your show at night at 10 to midnight or 10 to 1.
Yeah, that's great because, nighttime radio, as you know, is more theater of the mind. It's what I really appreciate delving into, not just politics, which oftentimes can give you a migraine headache, which then leads me and my wife to be listening to EDM, electronic dance music, so we can get a natural, elevated mood in the household going.
I'll tell you, you still have listeners here in California who remember your show quite fondly because we were doing a story about the boneheaded mayor of Stockton not long ago. And what was her name, Randy?
Christina Fugazi.
And the moment we said her name, people kept calling in and saying, that's the word that Curtis used to use all the time.
That's right, Fugazi, which means you're a fake, phony fraud, a real Fugazi.
All right. Well, I first want to start out by talking to you about the mayor's race in 2025, because I think you got a bad rap, including from a lot of people in our own industry, who wanted you to get out of the race and get behind Andrew Cuomo. And I remember hearing that argument over and over and over again. And I remember thinking to myself, no. We've done that a few times in California, and I'll tell you what it produced. In the old days, there was a congressman from the East Bay. His name was Pete Stark. He was a very left-wing congressman who had been there a very long time, and at the end started to lose his mind. And he would show up to these town hall events and say crazy things. And at one point, I think he even threatened to urinate on a constituent who disagreed with him on whatever the subject was that they were debating. And there was a Democrat who challenged him when he ran for re-election by the name of Eric Swalwell. And Eric Swalwell went to the Republicans and said, keep your candidate out of the race. All of you get behind me, and let's go after the common enemy. And the Republicans did that. They got behind Eric Swalwell, and they dumped Pete Stark. And the moment that Eric Swalwell put his hand on the Bible, he spent every waking moment trying to prove to the Democratic voters, who were the majority in that district, that he was one of them, and he wasn't going to do anything for the Republicans, and he turned into the monster that he has become. Another instance of that happened in San Francisco when Gavin Newsom was running for mayor, and he ran against a Green Party candidate, Matt Gonzalez. And Newsom did the same thing. He went to the Republicans and he said, don't vote for your candidate. Keep your candidates out of the race. I'm the only game in town. You get behind me and I'll take care of you. I'll put your people on all the boards and commissions that you want. I'll do whatever it is that you ask of me. just keep the Green Party candidate out. And the moment that guy got elected, he spent the rest of his career stabbing them in the back to prove to the majority that he wasn't one of them. If you would have done what the pressure was, what people wanted you to do, and all the pressure of the world was being put on you, I think the same thing would have happened in New York City. And it's one of these instances where you better be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. If you got out of the race, what would have happened? And Cuomo would have won the election, although now we know that Mamdani had a majority, so that wouldn't have happened anyway. But had Cuomo gotten elected, I think he would have gone the way of Swalwell, gone the way of Newsom, and he would have spent the rest of his career punishing those people. Your thoughts?
Well, I can assure you, in comparing this to Eric Swalwell, the congressman, and then obviously pretty boy Newsom, I never put my hands on the thigh of a young Chinese lady, agent of Red China, and I never cheated on my wife with my chief of staff's Umada. Do we set that straight, John?
The record is noted.
All right. So now back to crossing the line. So even if Andrew Evil Eyes, and boy, did he have Evil Eyes, if he ever got every one of the votes I got in the election, he still would have lost to Zoran Mandami, a proud democratic socialist. And it sort of reminds me, the best book I ever read was The Jungle, written by Upton Sinclair. So I was fascinated as a teenager in high school. I said, I got to explore who's Upton Sinclair. And I see he ran in California. He lived outside of Los Angeles as a socialist for the House, as the U.S. Senate candidate, lost miserably, then decided, well, the reason people aren't going to vote for me is I'm a socialist. So he ran as a Democrat for governor, still lost. All the major industries were against him. But he said, I did a hell of a lot better. And you see, that's what the socialists have done. They've merged into the Democratic Party. They know if you just ran as a socialist, which really Zoran Mandami is, you're never going to win an election. But to run as a Democratic socialist, as you can see, he not only beat Cuomo in the primary, he beat him in the general election. And I had the masters of the universe, all the billionaires stacked against me, including President Donald Trump, Elon Musk, who tweeted out, a vote for Sliwa is a vote for Zoran Mandami, vote for Cuomo. Now, I was the only Republican running on a law and order platform, talking about lowering taxes, which none of the other two Democrats were even hinting at. I had a perfect opposite point of view of the old Democrat and the new Democrat running, and yet my own president and my own party turned against me, as did Elon Musk and other billionaires. And now this is starting this is basically starting a pattern. We had Elise Stefanik, the superstar of the House. Nobody wanted to debate Elise Stefanik. You remember how she eviscerated the presidents of Harvard, Pennsylvania, and MIT. She was a tiger as a legislator. She wanted to run for the governorship of New York against Kathy Hochul. Great choice. And then the president wouldn't back her up. And so if you remember recently, she decided she would drop out of the race and, in fact, would not run for re-election in the House. We have a president here who claims that he wants to support Republicans, but when push comes to shove, oftentimes that's not the case. And I've never been MAGA. Never been MAGA in my life. They call me a rhino, Republican in name only. But nobody was more uber MAGA than Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, and she dropped out of the race. So I say you don't cross the line. And in this case, the independent candidate, John, was Andrew Cuomo, who lost in the primary because he never ran a race against this young man that nobody knew when he first entered the race. Not even his neighbors knew for sure who Zoran Mandami was.
What is it like when you're getting those phone calls? Because you mentioned the richest man on the planet, Elon Musk. You mentioned the president of the United States, a man who is a member of your party, the Republican Party. I would imagine that they went to other people who may have influence with you, people that you have worked with in the past, people who have employed you in the past, maybe people from your faith community, to call you up and urge you to get out of the race. I can't imagine what it must have been like to have that much pressure coming down on you all at once by those people.
Well, imagine day and night the first words out of anybody's mouth was, "You're going to drop out today? What's the price they're bribing you today?" Because I was being bribed every step of the way by these billionaires. So when all was said and done, when I said no, no, no for the final time about dropping out of the race, the figure was $10 million. Take $10 million, an offshore account, you have access to it whenever you want. You can basically live the life that maybe you always dreamed of, not realizing that the life of Curtis Sliwa has always been ashes to ashes, dust to dust. I came into the world with nothing but my red beret on my head, and I'll leave the world with my red beret on my head and nothing else. So I refused all of the bribes, and then it got really down and dirty. There were threats against my wife, Nancy, threats against me, threats against my staff, to do physical harm. Now, that's happened to me before. I was shot 5 times with hollow point bullets on the orders of John Gotti Sr. to John Gotti Jr. and the Gambino crime family back in June 19th in 1992 for what I was saying about him on WABC, where I was broadcasting at the time. But I never had armed guards. Well, because of all these threats, because I wouldn't take the bribes, I had to have armed guards with me, my wife Nancy, who is the animal rescuer, loves to rescue cats from being euthanized in various locations around the city of New York shelters, and then for members of my staff. And yes, it was tremendous pressure. But when the president of the United States gets on Fox News Channel, on Fox and Friends, on the very morning he gave the good news that the assassin of Charlie Kirk had been caught, and then when asked later on in the interview, well, what do you think of Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate running for mayor? He said, is Curtis Sliwa a Republican? And by the way, he and his wife, they want to bring cats into Gracie Mansion, which is where the mayor lives. Who wants all those cats in Gracie Mansion? I'm saying to myself, could the guy have gone out of his way to be any more harmful to my candidacy? Yes. I and my wife, we rescue animals who are in need. We don't believe in the kill shelter system. We believe in no-kill shelters. As if somehow that was a disqualification for me to be mayor of the city of New York. And it hurt, along with Elon Musk and the other masters of the universe. But guess what? I did not drop out. Democracy is one person, one vote. I never learned in school that democracy is you do whatever the billionaires tell you, the influencers. And by the way, who are these influencers? What have they ever influenced, or the insiders?
Yeah, now it turns out many of them are working for foreign governments and they're working for other people, and they don't disclose any of that. If you are a lobbyist or you're doing something in front of the government, you have to disclose that. But many of these people on social media, they're getting paid by outside outfits, and they don't have to reveal any of that. When they were coming to you with these numbers and they were asking you to get out of the race, did you get the impression that they took you seriously, or did you get the impression that they thought that you were negotiating to get a higher number?
Yeah, no, they were hoping that I was playing the old Price is Right. The price ain't right for me, so you got to ratchet it up. They didn't understand. In fact, my wife listened to one of the last conversations, and the guy on the line actually said, Curtis, everybody has a price. What is your price? I said, well, you're not going to meet my price because there is no price. Bob Barker, rest his soul in heaven. The price is right. Or remember, Monty Hall, let's make a deal. What do you want? Door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. This is what these people believe, John, is that everybody has a price and they can buy anybody and own anything. And I'm not Venezuela where you just take me over because you want my oil, or Greenland because you want my valuable resources. I'm a human being, no different than any other human being in this country with a right to run for office. I had the Republican primary won. I was the designated Republican candidate. And if you cross the party, you end up with a uniparty. You've experienced that in California. They've experienced that in many other states around the United States. The only thing that is checks and balance in this great country of ours, in this democracy, in this republic of ours, is to have a two-party system. And in fact, I'm even in favor of having multiple parties to give more options to more different points of view, have more debates, more different candidates. I trust the people. I don't trust the politicians, John. I don't care if they're my fellow Republicans or Democrats.
Here's what I don't understand. If you're trying to narrow the field down so you can beat the socialist, why not get Cuomo out of the race and get behind you? Because then you have a stark difference between a Republican and a socialist. And it would have been much easier to buy him off because you just say, look, here's the deal. The current governor of New York is unpopular. We'll finance your campaign to run against her. Give that another shot. Or you find him a congressional seat, the Nadler seat, or you run him for U.S. Senate against Schumer, whatever. He would have been much more open to taking the deal than you, and you would have had an easier opportunity to create a contrast between you and Mamdani.
You see, this is the difference, John. These masters of the universe, these billionaires, they didn't like the fact that a self-proclaimed populist Republican was running for the office of the mayoralty. They knew that Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo would make a deal with them, and they would create these PACs, over $100 million of this gray money, to help him run for office, not only in a primary that he lost, that he mailed in on. He didn't even go out there and aggressively run to be the Democratic nominee, and then ran as an independent. They knew you couldn't make a deal with me, and it's all about deals. That's what politics is, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. Are you willing to make deals? And I told a number of them, I don't make deals. I believe you are the representative of the people. Whether I'm dealing with a poor or homeless person in the street or the subway, as I do a leader of the Guardian Angels, or I'm dealing with the barons of industry, the Fortune 500 persons that make a lot of the business decisions that affect us here in America and the world. To me, you're all the same. They don't like hearing that. They think they can choose what goes on in our country, in our states, in our cities, and around the globe. And I dispute that. They didn't like my opinions about artificial intelligence. I am an opponent of the artificial intelligence that is going to wipe out so many jobs. And they all say, oh, trust us. There'll be more jobs in the end. Yeah. John, you're a talk show host. I've been a talk show host. They'll wipe us all out. They'll wipe out everybody in Hollywood out there. That's what one of the reasons that SAG-AFTRA went on trial. I am also somebody who is not a proponent of Bitcoin, that I call crime coin, blockchain, cryptocurrency. To me, it's a Ponzi scheme. They want New York City to be the epicenter of that. So when you have these kinds of opinions that I have, it runs against their grain. They don't like it. And they decided I should be on the outside looking in. And I said, no, I have the right to run, and I'm going to run it. And I believe that the people have an opportunity to be heard, and they were heard, and they voted for Zoran Mandami. And remember, all of a sudden, he was being called the Kami Mandami by the President of the United States, Donald Trump. He goes to the White House in late November. It's a love fest. Apparently, they've been texting back and forth. So we've all been played. We've all been played. Everybody gets what they want, but the persons that don't get what is needed are the people of the city of New York, like the people where you are in Los Angeles with Karen Bass, like the people of Chicago. They all get played. And meantime, Donald Trump, who should be focused on all these incredible international situations that are taking place, and in some instances, he's doing a great job. In others, to me, not. But he decides to get involved in local politics. I had urged him publicly, stay out of the New York City race because your involvement will just strengthen Zoran Mandami. He will play David versus Goliath. And unfortunately, my prediction was true.
Curtis Sliwa, you have a lot of fans out here in the state of California. You can follow him on X at Curtis Sliwa. Curtis, thank you so much for stopping by. Have a very happy New Year.
Good to reconnect with you, and I dedicate this talk to the great Al Runtel. Boy, he was a great talk show host.
All right. Well, I'll pass on your kind words to Al. Thank you so much. Curtis Sliwa, everyone. 800-222-5222 is telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, in a couple of days, we're going to be in the San Fernando Valley.
It's coming up on Friday the 16th from noon to 3. It's a live broadcast of the John Phillips Show with great food, great drinks at the Pineapple Hill. We've been to the Pineapple Hill many times and we'll be at the Pineapple Hill many more times. It's always a good time on that beautiful back patio with Angela Marsden taking care of you. We're going to have a great time celebrating Jimmy Buffett Friday, and you all get a 3-hour head start because you all can start drinking at noon. We don't start till 3 because we're responsible broadcasters. We'll have special guests with us like Susan Shelley from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association. The courts have made it easier to raise your taxes, so we need you to come by and sign the petition to save Prop 13. And if you want to work ahead, you can actually do that right now. Go to the website, saveprop13.com, and there's all the instructions right there. Susan needs those signatures by February 17th, so get them in. Bring them to you. Bring them to the event. Print some out for friends and family. Bring those to the event. We'll tell you more about your taxpayer rights and protecting Prop 13. It's the John Phillips Show live at the Pineapple Hill in Sherman Oaks this Friday from noon to 3.
Let's go to Clifton in Vallejo. Clifton, welcome.
Hey, what's cracking with you guys, man? Top of the day to you, man. I just want to kick into something, man, that's really, really just very, very irritating to me. And and I'm gonna go to another point, but this is one of the main points that I wanted to make about the people that complain about Trump putting the National Guards into cities and stuff like that. Do you remember when the 1930s, when John Dillinger was running rapid across this country, robbing banks and doing what they did with him? They took him to Indiana. In Indiana, he broke out of jail, and all you saw was National Guards troops all over the place. So that's the first precedent for having National Guards in the country. You understand what I'm saying? So that's one thing right there. But the other thing is these people who complain about all this other stuff about, you know what I'm saying, about our national sovereignty and what we should be doing in other countries and all of that kind of stuff, like in Venezuela. Look, we have the right to do that because it's in our hemisphere. You understand what I'm saying? And we should be in control of that. So I'm supportive of everything, almost everything. I'm not going to say everything, but I'm going to say 90% of the things that this administration is doing. But these people, man, I'm telling you, man, and I don't want to even get to California and the things that we're doing here as far as, you know what I'm saying, I forget what my main point was, but my main point was about what was going on in California as far as, you know, the way we just controlling things here and the way this is a communist state. That's all you can say. You know what I'm saying? It really is. So, you know, we need to come together as a people. That's the bottom line right there, man, and get this thing into one accord. If we're not rolling together in one accord, then we're not going to be able to fix this. So that's my whole point right there. We need to come together in one accord and fix this, man, because we could do it. You either have the will to do it or you don't.
All right. Words of optimism from Clifton. Thanks so much for calling. Have a happy new year.
Usually he says over and over again, do you understand what I'm saying? I don't think I did.
Well, he made some astute points about the National Guard, but I think he forgot where he was headed.
Love you, Clifton. Call back anytime.
All right. So we know that the city of San Diego is trying to pay for their bloated budget by jacking up fees every chance they get. One of the types of fees that they're jacking up are the parking fees. Now, as you can imagine, if you live in San Diego, it's annoying because suddenly you went from being able to park wherever you wanted to being able to park wherever you want, but it costing an arm and a leg. Well, it's not just the people of San Diego who are upset about this. So is everyone else, because everyone else has to pay the parking fees, but they don't vote in San Diego, so they don't even have a say as to what those fees will be.
And the biggest blow up here has been the implementation of paid parking at Balboa Park, a park that has had free parking since before there were cars. That park is 150 years old. And last week, San Diego implemented paid parking. We're talking about in certain lots, it's $10 to go to a park. And yeah, that's not just pissing off local San Diego residents, but all of the smaller cities in San Diego County, they have residents that use that park as well, and they're also sick of it. So every mayor of every small city in San Diego County had a press conference with a couple of the members of the city council that are trying to repeal this nonsense. And they had a strong message for Todd Gloria, Sean Elo Rivera, and the rest of the riffraff that thought this was a great idea to shore up the budget. For more, here's NBC7 in San Diego.
There is new pushback in the fight over paid parking at Balboa Park. Today, 12 mayors from the East County, South Bay, and North County are asking the city of San Diego to repeal that parking policy. They say the policy treats people from their cities as tourists when they visit the park, charging them a higher fee for parking than City of San Diego residents.
And by the way, fun fact, and this is so embarrassing. One of the things that is really nice in Balboa Park, and that's where a lot of the museums are, they have a thing called Free Tuesdays, where one of the museums, whether it be the Natural History Museum, maybe the Comic-Con Museum, admission is free on Tuesdays, and it rotates every week. And usually the lines are packed because that's a great, awesome thing that you can do for free in San Diego. Because of the paid parking on Free Tuesdays, nobody was there.
NBC7's.
This is the most short-sighted policy I have ever seen, and San Diego, I guarantee, is going to lose money on this.
Of course they will.
NBC7's political reporter Joey Safchik has the update from Balboa Park.
Yeah, the calls have been coming from within San Diego City Hall to change or repeal paid parking here at Balboa Park. But now there are also calls coming from city halls throughout the region. Whether that will amount to enough political pressure to prompt change, that is still to be determined.
Oh, yeah, a lot of it, they come into the visitor center and that's the first thing they're starting to talk about.
It's the talk of the town.
What about the parking?
And not just this town, as in the city of San Diego, but some surrounding cities whose mayors are calling for San Diego to reverse paid parking at Balboa Park.
Because Balboa Park is a regional asset, and many of our local residents, especially lower income families, have been hit tremendously by the cost of living.
And they're just not going. That park is empty, and that is a gem of Southern California.
Well, this is where big cities can hold everyone else hostage. If you think about their services that everyone in the region uses, whether it's the parks, the zoos, the airports, the sports venues, you name it, they're the ones that get to determine what the parking rates are and what other fees are. But everyone else has to pay it without being able to have a seat at the table and say, that's not fair for this reason or that reason, because you don't have a vote if you're not a resident.
Chula Vista Mayor John McCann standing alongside San Marcos Mayor Rebecca Jones, El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells, and La Mesa City Council member Laura Lothian as they stand against the controversial policy.
I've been opposed to this from the start.
According to San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria's office, as of Sunday, 1,754 people have gotten parking passes.
That's not a sign of success.
No, it's not. And his point of view is, I don't care what these other people think. They don't get to vote in my election. So therefore, why should I even listen to them?
I mean, he doesn't care what the locals think about this. This is so unbelievably unpopular, but they don't care. They say we need to do this because the last thing we're going to do in San Diego is cut our bloated budget.
The vast majority, 1,628, are residents of the city of San Diego who get a 50% discount on those passes.
Many of my residents feel like they're tourists now, and they are not going to participate in being a volunteer or going to the park if they have to pay such an exorbitant fee.
Yeah, even the volunteer organizations have to pay for parking. It is so insane.
San Diego Councilmember Stephen Whitburn, who represents the park, joins the chorus of regional mayors in calling for a full repeal of paid parking. His colleagues, Shawnila Rivera and Kent Lee, want to pause charging city residents due to issues in the rollout. When asked about his fellow mayors calling for that repeal, Mayor Gloria, in a statement Monday, says, quote, the proposal discussed today would dismantle the city's progress in creating a direct funding stream for Balboa Park's operations and improvements.
No. The property taxes and sales taxes that people already pay are expected to be a direct funding stream to keep that park going. Enough of this, we need a special bucket just to fund the park because we robbed all of that money.
No, this is the mayor of San Diego taking care of his public employee union benefactors.
Says, quote, the proposal discussed today would dismantle the city's progress in creating a direct funding stream for Balboa Park's operations and improvements. We understand this is a major change, but it is a necessary one.
No, it's not. How is it possible that this park was free to park at for 150 years and then just a couple of years of Todd Gloria and now the city can't afford to operate its biggest park?
I'm telling you. Good things take forever. Bad things happen fast. San Diego had a long string of good mayors, and now they have one bad one, and he's destroying the city in real time.
Volunteer Shelley Long wants paid parking to come to a stop for fear it'll stop people from coming to the park.
I love Balboa Park, and I hope we don't lose visitors.
The mayor's office...
Well, they did lose visitors. Like I said, it was Free Tuesdays yesterday, and nobody showed up for free admission to the museum because you have to pay for parking. That's the end of the story.
And that park, by the way, I read a biography not long ago about the radio evangelist Amy Semple McPherson. She used to have tent show revivals down there where she would heal the sick in that park. And they would come in from all over and pack that park so that she could perform her deeds.
Those days are long gone.
Can you imagine what a show like that would look like in 2026? Where she takes her hands and makes the blind see again. Tells the people in the wheelchairs to get out, dance. I'd go see that. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Referencing the radio evangelist Amy Semple McPherson in the last segment reminds me, Randy, of what she used to say when the collection plate would go around her Foursquare church.
And what did she say?
She would say, all right, the collection plate's going around. And all I want to hear is paper money because the clanging of coins hurts Jesus' ears. She was so big at the time that Charlie Chaplin would show up to her church to watch her perform.
Oh, wow.
In Echo Park. Yeah, the Foursquare Church. It's hard to imagine because now things are so spread out. But back then, she was as if Oprah Winfrey and Billy Graham were merged into one person. She was that big of a superstar. And she used to fill that park down in San Diego and a lot of other massive, massive, massive parks, buildings, churches, facilities. She was a big deal back in the day and a huge star on the radio. All right, let's take some phone calls and begin with Michael in Palos Verdes. Michael, hello.
Hello. How are you today?
Good.
Good. I just wanted to just let the people know they need to understand who the Democratic Party is. They need to understand that the Democratic Party are the losers of the Civil War, and they vowed to destroy the United States. And that's been their mission ever since the ending of slavery. There's been a mission to destroy America and to get rid of black people for a better and more simpler term or nicer term to put it. People need to understand that their mission is to destroy America. There's a difference between a Democrat and a liberal. Liberals have been duped into believing that the Democratic Party are here to help the poor people and the small people. But if you look at the voting history of the Democratic Party, they've been against the poor people, the small people, the black people. And they're very cunning in their messages, just like they call black people people of color. But when they first started the Democratic Party, they called them coloreds. So it went from colored people as a racist term to people of color. It's just a reversal of the words. But the message is still racist. And liberals just don't see that.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it.
We could have just let him go on for the next 5 minutes.
Let's go to Robert in Santa Clara. Robert, hello.
Well, let me go on about what you guys need to know. What you guys need to know is we got to get out there to Sherman Oaks or download that petition. And it's a total takings otherwise, because they're trying to get rid of the 2/3 majority, this legislature that we have. And it should be literally deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court and Ninth Circuit. But before we have to take it all the way, they should stand their ground in New York. If you're a property owner or if you're a landlord, stand your ground. Don't pay the taxes. Do what they're doing in Illinois against Brandon Johnson, just overnight double property tax. This is an absolute confiscation, and the wealth tax also unconstitutional. But before we have to go through there, it's still the initiative system. We got to take care of our own. Get over to Sherman Oaks, visit you guys, and download that petition, because otherwise you can't homestead and retire here very easily. It's, a long shot anyways with Newsom's gas taxes and cap and trade. I get it. The CPI is super high. Can't get insurance. But get over there and sign that petition. Send it in.
Well, we were collecting signatures in the San Fernando Valley for this initiative the last time we were there. We were working, obviously, so I didn't get an opportunity to sign it. And I came home and I printed out copies of the petition from the Howard Jarvis website. It was very easy to do. You have to fill out certain portions of the petition, and then you put your signature on there. And then I went and I took it to friends of mine who I knew were like-minded on this particular subject, and I had them sign it too. And right there on the website, they show you the address that you need to mail it to. I put it in the mail, sent it off to Sacramento to the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and they have the signatures. Obviously, we would love to see all of you at the Pineapple Hill Saloon in the San Fernando Valley between noon and 3 on Friday. But I know everyone has a busy life. Many of you are listening in the Bay Area. If you live in Orange County or the Inland Empire or Ventura County, the Santa Clarita Valley, that can be a pain in the keister to get to. We get that. We know that you would like to be there in spirit. But you don't have to be there to sign the petition. All you have to do is download it from the website, print it out, sign it, and send it in. But there is a deadline that's coming up in February, so you need to do it promptly, because if you don't, Prop 13 could be the next initiative to go the way of the dodo in the state of California. We know that the same people who are chasing the billionaires out of state with their wealth confiscation tax, their proposed wealth confiscation tax, would like to do the same thing to Prop 13. So let's all stand up in defense of Proposition 13. All right, that's going to do it for us.